everyone, I'm Devon and welcome to VisArts Home Art Videos. VisArts is a nonprofit arts organization located in Rockville, Maryland, and our mission is to transform the community through the visual arts. You can check out our organization and everything we've got to offer at our website, www.visartscenter.org. Today I'm going to be making egg carton picture frames. This is a really great project because it uses things that we can find around the house, like cardboard, egg cartons, things like that. And you can make it completely to your own style. It doesn't have to be like anyone else's. So these are the materials you'll need. For the project, you'll need some empty egg cartons, a plate or something that you can use as a paint palette, any kinds of paint that you want. I decided to use acrylic paint, but you can use tempera if you want. Paintbrushes, paper towel, and a cup for water. I also like to use a safety pin or a floss pick, or you can use a toothpick to have a sharp edge that you can make details with your paint on. It's also always good to have a pencil if you want to make any markings. Scissors, double-sided tape or glue. Liquid glue works better if you haven't got any double-sided tape or glue stick. And some kind of frame. I didn't have a frame, so I made some out of cardboard. You can take cardboard and cut a square out of the middle of one, or you can go out and buy one, whatever you prefer. So let's get started. The first thing I would recommend doing is preparing your frame. If you don't have one already, and if you can't go buy one, you can make one out of cardboard. I took 4 pieces of cardboard and just taped them together and painted over it black to get this nice matte color. You can do any color you want. If you've got brown cardboard, like most people do, I would recommend covering it in tape first, in a neutral color tape, then painting over it. That way you don't have anything coming through, no brown color, okay? If you have a frame already, then it's prepared, you're ready. So the next thing we do is we take our egg carton and our scissors and we start cutting out flowers. So I'm going to show you now how to make some of the flowers that I made. So now what I'm going to go through is how to make each individual flower. I've got a few different kinds and I was just going to show how I made each of them. So these are poppies, daisies, and they're the same type of flower or the same type of egg carton that I use. I just painted them differently. We've got a rose, a tulip, I think, more or less, and a lily. So I'm going to explain how to make each of them with your egg cartons. Let's start with the easiest one, the daisy poppy. All we need for that one is an egg carton, really any egg carton. Pay attention when you're buying eggs because you can find a lot of different ones. These ones are pretty deep and they've got these nice sort of petal looking things on the corner. The corners are pretty high. You've got these pretty deep ones that don't really have much except for being really round and here nice and uneven. And I had some other ones before that had pretty high protrusions at the back, which also came in handy. I don't have any of those left. So let's start with the daisy poppy. All you need to do is cut one of these squares out. When you're cutting, be really careful. Make sure that you're cutting slowly and around the lines. The hard thing with cardboard is it can be difficult to cut, and if you don't cut it carefully, it can fray and be really hard to work with. The good thing about these flowers is, like in nature, flowers are imperfect. So yours don't have to be perfect either. So I've got my nice individual egg carton. Okay, cut it out, and I've got my high corners. From here, if you wanted to make the lily, you would keep these corners intact. See how perfectly they look like petals? And you would cut a little V right here. Get rid of this part right here, and then you would have 4 nice petals that you could spread out to make a lily. But since we're making the daisy / poppy, we're going to cut those off. Basically just make a nice circular flower or shape, okay? You use your fingers to sort of stretch it out a little bit These are pretty strong, so you can put a little bit of pressure, but not too much, or you'll do what I did and rip it. Okay. And if you want, like how I added on mine, I made mine a little bit ridged. Okay, so I cut in and out, give it some nice rounded petals. You can cut slits here if you want the petals to be protruding a little bit. But yeah, like I said, I decided to go with sort of the rounded petals. Okay, so it can just be pretty uneven, doesn't have to be super symmetrical. Make sure you're getting nice round cuts and not sharp corners like that one. That can be fixed very easily with some glue. Okay, so use your fingers to push it out a little bit more again. And there you go. You've got a nice shape for a daisy, poppy, sunflower if you want, really anything. Okay. With this green color, I would recommend painting a layer of white before you do any more painting. That will help coat it and get rid of the green color when you start to paint more colors on top. It'll give it a nice coating so it won't be as tinted by the green with whatever color you do. All right, so we've got our poppy and daisy. Let's move on to the lily. Okay, as with the poppy daisy, we're going to use this nice green one that has the high ridges on the edge. Be really careful with the corners here, okay, because this is going to be the end of your petal. So you want to make sure that, unlike with the other daisy where I sort of cut off that corner, you want to make sure that you're leaving those intact as possible. Okay, some of them aren't going to be perfect because you've got this little circle here, but if you can help it, try and keep those as pointed as possible. All right, so we've cut off all the sides. We've got our nice pointed corners for our petals. Now what we want to do is, unlike with the daisy / poppy where we cut off these petals, we're going to leave those intact and we're going to cut a little V, get rid of this space in the middle. Now you can go really deep or you can keep it shallower. It totally depends on how you want it. This one that I did before, I went about midway down, maybe a little bit less. Okay, we've got this nice space to keep it intact, and these are pretty flexible, especially if you've got a good foundation, so you can bend them down. Okay, so now we've got a new lily with four petals. What I would recommend doing is, you see these are kind of uneven, okay, but we still have the nice indent of where the petal is. So I'm going to just trim the sides a little bit, make it a little bit rounder, make them a little bit more even. All right, so there we go. Well, sort of a funny one, but like I said, flowers are imperfect. So what we can do is we can just take one of these and paint it, or we can take two of them and paint them and then put them together. They fit really perfectly together. And once they're painted, they'll look really nice together. So I would recommend painting each piece first, then letting them dry and gluing. Okay. So this is one way that you can make a lily. Another way you can do it is by cutting these out individually. It's a little bit harder, but I'm going to show you how I did it. So how I did it with these is I cut the corners out completely, and I've got the petals, and then all you have to do is stick them together. Okay, this one's a little bit more difficult because you have to be pretty dexterous. I'm going to cut that one a little bit more. Thinner at the bottom, kind of like the stem, and thicker at the top. That way they fit better together at the bottom. Okay, you can paint them individually, and then glue, stick, glue, stick, glue, stick, etc. Keep going until you've got a full lily, or that can even be a sunflower. Okay. All right, the next one I'm going to show you how to do is the rose. So for this one, I used one of the really deep circular ones. The good thing about roses is they're very unsymmetrical and they're pretty uneven. So we can use this imperfect egg carton to our advantage. Okay, I'm going to cut them out individually and cut off the extra. You don't want to have a sharp corner like that, so I'm going to round it off a little bit. Maybe even make this part a little bit smaller. All right. All right, so we've got our outside. Okay, I would paint this. This one is going to be significantly smaller, so we can get rid of all of that excess pretty easily. All right, so from here, I take my scissors, and in the lowest part, I cut a slit. Okay, this is going to help us spiral. Then take my scissors and I cut where this wall meets the floor. I want to cut that a little bit. Okay, so we're working slowly to spiral it. Next, I'm going to go in the other direction. Basically, cutting the entire bottom off of the wall. We don't want that to be attached at all, because that's going to restrict how much we can spiral it. Okay, so that goes away, and we're left with the wall of the carton. Okay, these are pretty flexible, but at the same time they can be really stiff, so you're going to want to work it a few times with your fingers. Spiral it, then unroll it. Try going the opposite way a little bit. Just breaks up the fibers in the cardboard so we can work with it much more easily. Okay. Okay. So you've got a nice center. I am going to cut this off to clean it up a little bit. Okay. Now what I would do is take some glue on the side that's on the outside, put it right there, and stick it, okay? Then you can work this part inside freely. If you want, you can also glue this part first to the inside, and then the outside. Okay, we've got a nice spiral, fits right in. Again, you're going to want to glue that down. Once it's all painted and glued together, you're going to want to glue that down. And from the top, from the side, it will look like a rose. Sort of uneven petals in a nice spiral pattern. All right, and our last flower, the tulip. What I did for this one is I took, again, my nice green egg cartons, and I just cut pretty deep. Okay, I want a really nice, even, circular base. Okay, it's pretty small, significantly smaller than our daisy poppy. Okay, we've got a nice round base, okay, which I painted. Then we take another one, another green, I'm cutting off right even with where the sides meet these corners. I'm not cutting lower than that. This is going to be the spiral for inside, and we need it to be a little bit bigger than what we've got here, where it's going to be too small. Okay, so our corners are gone. We've got our nice poppy shaped flower. Now what I'm going to do is cut a spiral, okay? Start just with a slit. You can continue cutting the entire thing if you want, or you can just cut a part of it. I'm only going to cut a part of it because I like how it looks when it's pretty small, when the spiral is pretty small inside. I'm even going to cut off a little bit of this because I think it's too big. All right, and just like with our rose, we're going to work the cardboard a little bit. Maybe clean it up a little bit. I would recommend working the cardboard and spiraling it how you want it before you paint. While you're painting, of course, you can lay it flat and unspiral it, but just so it has a path that it's already gone down, so that when you paint it, it will be easy to do again, because with paint, it'll make it even more stiff. Glue that together. You might have to glue on several different points of this. Don't glue the entire side, because then you're just stuck with one sort of mush ball that doesn't really have any openings. You want to glue in the beginning of the spiral, in the middle of the spiral, and at the end of the spiral. So you've got some nice space. After you paint, that fits right in. We've got our little tulip. Now that we've got our flowers prepared, we have to paint. With these green ones, the paints might be a little bit too see-through. So what I would recommend doing is first painting over it white, like this, okay? It's your choice if you want to paint both the inside and the outside. I painted both the inside and the outside of all of my flowers. Here's an example of one that I did not paint white on the outside. Painted it white on the inside, and it's a much richer color. But on the outside, you can still see through the green a little bit, especially there because I didn't paint. Here's an example of one that I did paint white on both the inside and the outside, and it's covered much more thoroughly. White just gives it a nice coating upon which you can paint more. So paint it white, let it dry. Acrylic paint dries pretty fast, so you won't have to wait too long. So once we've got our flowers prepared, we just have to paint them. I'm gonna do a nice dark blue over my white, okay? Take a small amount. In fact, I'm going to do a mixture of this dark blue and a little bit lighter royal blue. When you mix the colors together, especially when they're not actually mixed together on the palette, but just on the brush, it gives it a nice streaky look. For example, this one, I mixed a really dark red with a lighter red, and that's why I got that nice streaky sort of two colors of red look. All right, so take our paintbrush and get started. So you can sort of see on the brush that I've got two different colors. I haven't mixed them together, but once I start painting on the flower, they will mix together. If you don't mix them too much on the flower, then they'll remain pretty streaky. Maybe add a little bit more of one color if you want it to look streakier. All right, so I've painted my flower, the inside. Make sure you get these edges. And like I said, it's totally up to you if you want to paint the outside or not. I painted the outside on all of my flowers because I'm not sure what angle people are going to be looking at it on the frame. So I thought it would look nice if it was all painted. So I'm going to go ahead and do that really quick. All right, so we've got our flower painted on both sides. And remember, when you're finished painting, paintbrush goes in the water. Like I said, acrylic paint dries quite fast and you don't want it to dry on your brush because that'll ruin the brush. So we've got our flower painted. I painted the middle, but later I'm gonna go over that again with black. Black is a dark, really dark color, and it's darker than all the other colors I've got. So it's okay if you paint the middle if you're going to paint it with black. If you're going to paint it with a lighter color, leave the middle unpainted. So that way you don't have to cover it with, for example, white, which would be really hard to cover the blue with some white. Okay. So I'm going to show you some examples of the flowers that I have already painted so that you can see a little bit of what I did and some of the options. You've got like what I just did with the poppy. It's pretty plain. Maybe you've got a few streaks in there, but another one I did is this rose, and it's quite plain, not a lot of detail. I thought the shape of it was really cool, so I didn't really need to add too much more with the paint. I just sort of left it how it was. But then as I showed you, I've got my poppies, which I added quite a bit more detail to in the middle. I painted over the middle with the black, added some streaks on the side. And then my favorite one that I made is this sort of lily. Okay, and with this one, I gave it a lot of details. Okay, I painted these white, And then with a little bit of water, put some pink on and streaked those and added some details. One thing I would recommend having, I said it in the material list, is a toothpick or a floss pick or a safety pin. This will allow you to do some really, really precise details on your flowers when you're painting. For example, another one I did was the tulip, which has a lot of dots and stripes inside. So I used my floss pick to do that. So now that we've got all our flowers painted, the best part, we get to attach them. So now that I've got my flowers in the place that I want to be, I'm going to secure them. So I would recommend using liquid glue. If you have a hot glue gun, that would probably be the best. Make sure that you have an adult supervision while you're using that hot glue gun. I don't have either, so I'm going to use my double-sided tape. So here we go. So we've got all our flowers glued down or secured down. Now all you have to do is find a picture to put in the middle. Thanks so much for tuning into VisArts home art videos. I hope you enjoyed creating with me today. If you liked what you made, let us know and send us a picture of your finished masterpiece. For more information on our organization and how to get involved, check out the description box below. And don't forget to subscribe and like us. Bye.